Hey everyone, I wanted to come back and make another video. Usually I make my videos towards the end of the week as it kind of lines up with when I started on T, so it's kind of easier to measure in weeks that way. I have background noise, okay. But I had some time today and my camera and everything was set up because I had a meeting, so I figured I would record this now. So I'm about 7.5 weeks in, and yeah, I mean, things have changed. Obviously my voice has really started dropping. It feels really bassy. It's weird because it doesn't sound that bassy at all, but when I'm actually speaking I can feel my voice feels a lot, it's weird to say, like a lot lower, but it does. It feels more in my chest than in my head. And it's actually interesting, when I try singing I just can't anymore. So I went through a phase where, like, I think it was last time I made a video I said that I was just struggling to place notes, and that's true, but also sometimes now I just can't make a sound and my voice will crack. So I've noticed, particularly if I'm kind of animated when I talk as well, my voice will just crack, and it's actually ridiculous. I don't know if embarrassing's the word, maybe slightly. It's a really weird experience because obviously it's something I've never experienced before, and it really is, you just don't have any control over it. You'll be talking and then your voice will just kind of give up, and it's like, what? Why? So that is happening, and it's a really strange experience, but I think it means that I should probably expect my voice to actually break at some point, which I guess is kind of cool as well. So, you know, I think it's signaling some kind of good things in future for me, although things I still feel kind of like, I don't know what the word is. Obviously I expect these things because this is what I want and this is what I've signed up for, but it's also strange because it's like, oh, okay, my body's just doing this and it's just kind of going off and doing its own thing, and that's a really weird sensation. I guess I forgot what puberty is like. I don't know. You know, because obviously as a girl your body changes, so it's not like I've never been through this. I think maybe as an adult I'm just really hyper aware of it because it's happening at speed, and obviously something that I initiated specifically and that I'm tracking. So I think that's maybe what's the strange thing about it, is that I'm so aware of it. But I really wanted to talk in this video actually about something that people have kind of asked me about and that I've thought about, and that's being blind and transgender. So how do these things interact? How do they not interact? What's it like? And it's hard because I can't tell you what it's like to be sighted and trans. You know, I've never been able to see. And even if I had, let's say I'd been able to see when I was younger, I wouldn't have gone through this specific experience as a sighted person. So it's not something I can compare. But I think there's a lot of people out there who are trans and who are sighted who make content, and we as viewers can compare those experiences even if we don't understand both. Like, I understand my experience but I don't understand theirs. So I think that's the best we can do, really, right? You know, is try and have empathy and understand someone's experience even if it's not something we've gone through ourselves. So I do think these things interact in some ways, and it's not really about being trans. Like, I don't think being blind affects that, as in I am what I am and what can you do about it, you know? It is what it is. A lot of people are like, well, how do you know you're trans if you're blind? And it's like, what are you on about? Why wouldn't you? It's not about looking in the mirror. Yeah, I mean, obviously as transgender people we have dysphoria, and so if you're sighted, a lot of that's going to come about when you catch a reflection as you walk past it and you experience dysphoria. But that doesn't mean a blind person can't. You know, I have the same hang-ups about my body as other people do, whether that's trans specific or not, you know. And blindness just isn't something that changes, that we have a relationship with our bodies, and that's not always a good relationship, and sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. So I can't really answer the question of, well, how do I know I'm trans if I'm blind, because I think it's a question based on misconceptions about blindness and ignorance actually about blindness. It's like, how do you know your sexuality if you're blind? Well, yeah, I mean, obviously dating is, again, you look at someone and you find them attractive, but it's not just about being able to see. I think it's really arrogant of sighted people to presume that they are the only ones who have these experiences, and they are the only ones who can have these experiences because that's how they personally experience something. It's just so narrow-minded. So I'm not going to engage with that beyond what I've said. But it's, for me, not about being trans, it's about my journey. So how blindness has affected things is, it's so silly. It's things like, what haircut should I have? And it's not about deciding, it's about knowing what choices are available to me. So I don't know what options I have, and I can't look at a website or look at famous guys or look at the guys around me and see how they style their hair or how they style their clothes or any of these things and go, oh, I like that, or yeah, I think that would look good on me. I just don't know what my options are. So when I go and get my hair cut, the guy who cuts my hair is great. He's also trans, so it's really, really great. And he'll be like, well, you know, what do you want doing? And I'll just be like, just do the same. And I will talk to him at some point about kind of maybe what options I have. I think it's what I like, the hairstyle I have, because it's very masculine, and obviously right now I'm going through a transition, so I feel like I want to push towards the more masculine side, whereas maybe once I've had top surgery and once my voice has really changed, I'll feel a bit different. I'll be more willing to experiment. But anyway, he'll ask me what I want, and I'm just like, yeah, do the same thing. But really, I have no idea what my options are. It's like, I just don't know. And that's definitely a blindness thing, because I think I would struggle with indecision if I could see, because I'd be like, what choice do I want to make? But I would know what options were available to me. And that's the same if you're cisgender and blind. So I will say that's the same, in that we just lack a lot of information. We lack information access, and it's a huge problem in so many areas, and fashion and styling is one of those areas. Obviously, as a trans person, there's an extra layer to this, because who do you ask? Who do you feel comfortable asking? Easier for me because I'm out and I'm very, very openly trans. But certainly before, it was like, I'd think about things and I'd be like, well, I can't ask someone about this, or I can't talk to people, because if I started asking like, oh, what's some cool men's styles, people would be like, well, why do you want to know that? And that's obviously an issue for trans people who are blind and who aren't out and who kind of want to know what their options are. So actually, one thing my sister said to me, which I thought was interesting, was she has a friend who's trans, and she was like, oh yeah, this friend of mine, it was a bit less abrupt for them, because, you know, they cut their hair and they started wearing men's clothes before they came out. And I don't think the implication was, why didn't you do that? I don't want to imply that at all, because it wasn't that. It was just a comparison, right, between two different people. But I thought about it and I was like, yeah, I mean, I couldn't really do that, because I didn't feel comfortable knowing what hairstyle I might want and where would I go. Whereas actually, once I came out, it was a friend of mine who's also trans. He asked around to find like trans friendly places where I could get my hair cut. So that was something that I had access to because I was out. Whereas if I wasn't, it's like I felt like I had less wiggle room, because I couldn't make decisions about kind of my appearance without revealing this information. So that is specifically how it interacts as a trans thing, is you can do a lot less preparing, I guess. Another way is when you go shopping. So I'm really lucky that I have a great group of friends. So I tend to go shopping with friends, or I shop online because I actually hate shopping. Um, so I like new clothes. I have so many clothes. It's actually ridiculous how many clothes I have. It's bad. I shouldn't have this many clothes. It's wasteful. But here we are. Anyway, but I actually hate shopping because it's just there's so many people and it's stressful, and again it's an inherently inaccessible experience because if I go around a shop and I say to my friends, oh, what looks good, again I only get a snapshot of what they think looks good. I don't get to just wander and browse because I can't do that. And one thing specifically really as a trans thing is there's a lot of gatekeeping by people who work in a lot of shops. Now, this isn't always the case because sometimes you go in and you find someone who's great. But if I go in and ask for assistance, I often get read as female, obviously, and I don't necessarily want to be like, yeah, I'm actually trans and I would really love to check out all the men's clothes, so can we go here? Or if I'm like, yeah, I want to buy men's clothes, obviously it's so arbitrary, right? Because why shouldn't a woman be able to buy what we consider to be men's clothes? The fact that clothes are gendered, I think, is just completely ridiculous and pointless. But that's the society we live in, and some people will want to uphold that, whether it's consciously or not. So you kind of have to contend with this thing that you're asking for help buying clothes, and even if you're buying men's clothes, if they read you as female, they will probably want to look for clothes that would make you look female, even if they're men's clothes, if that makes sense in terms of the body shape. Whereas I very much want to hide things like the curves on my hips. So it's difficult because I feel like I have less options when I shop. And, you know, I am very, very lucky, like I said, to have friends that I can go with. But that is definitely something that I think is hard, because if I didn't, what would I do? And who would I ask, and how would I do this? So that is something that does happen. Another is bathrooms, and oh, I am loath to get into being transgender and using the bathroom because it is just such a non-issue that has been blown up into an issue by certain people. And we all know who: the media, conservatives in general, though not just conservatives. I do want to make this point that actually when it comes to trans rights, I don't think we should make a left and right divide, because that's not how things are working. There are a lot of people who are very hard left who would deny trans people the right to use the bathroom. I think it's in general in the United States, it's led by conservatives, but there are notable conservatives who have spoken out in support of trans people. In the UK, it's much more complicated because we have a much more outspoken, perhaps, gender critical movement, and the media has really jumped on a lot of this. So bathrooms, yeah, there is a way that blindness affects this, and that's, let's say I'm somewhere and I ask someone to help me find the bathroom. You know, if I'm at a cafe and I'm by myself and I ask someone who works there, they're probably going to direct me towards the women's bathroom. Now, I feel very complex feelings about this. I have not yet used a men's bathroom. I don't often use women's bathrooms. Sometimes I will if I'm with a friend, and like when I go climbing, for example, I've often still got changed in the women's bathroom. Now, I haven't got changed at climbing in a few weeks, and that's going to change soon, because as my body starts changing and as I start feeling more comfortable, I actually don't want to use a women's bathroom anymore. But at first, you know, when I'd come out but I hadn't started using tea, that was when I was like, yeah, I'm with my friends, I'm going to go in a women's bathroom and get changed. Now, had I been with friends who were guys, I would have gone in the men's bathroom and got changed, because I'd have felt safe. I don't feel particularly safe going in either bathroom by myself. So this isn't just a, oh, I don't feel safe in the men's bathroom, let's back up everything we say about, you know, men versus women. It's not that. It's just about me being by myself. So I'm lucky that I can ask where the accessible bathroom is and no one's going to question that because I'm blind. So they're just going to be like, oh yeah, of course they'd use the disabled bathroom. But when there's only male or female, it's definitely a thing at the moment that I just don't use the bathroom when I'm out, unless I'm with friends who I feel comfortable asking to direct me towards the bathroom. But if I'm not with friends or people I know, I just try not to use the bathroom or go somewhere where I know there's an accessible one, because I have to ask people. I can't just quickly slip into a bathroom when no one's looking and be discreet about it. Discretion is something which I am not permitted as a blind person, unfortunately. So that is definitely something that I have found to be a problem or a consideration, and so I tend to plan around how I'm going to access the bathroom. And again, I think other trans people do this because maybe they don't feel safe going in either bathroom as well, and they know it's going to be very busy and someone might call them out. So again, I don't think it's just blindness, but I do think the way blindness interacts with it is quite specific. The final thing I'm going to mention is paperwork. So, oh my god, being transgender comes with a lot of paperwork. I really do mean a lot. So first you have to change your name. That's not accessible, by the way. So you can produce a deed poll, but obviously how do you see where to sign it if you're blind? And the expectation is that you will sign it using a pen. Now, I can sign using a pen, but I would have to know where, and I actually can't write very well. So I can sign my signature, but I can't write my full name using print. So that was something that I would have had to write, not even my dead name, but my current name, Connor. And obviously, that was something I hadn't learned to write, and I actually still haven't learned to write it. I can write my initials, obviously, but because a C is really easy to write. But yeah, my full name, I don't think I can write it. My writing's dreadful. So I couldn't do that. So I found a way around it by getting a friend to help me, and I have zero regrets. But again, as a blind person, I was really lucky to have support. And I was really lucky to already know a trans person who was actually the person that witnessed my deed poll. So that was kind of cool as well. But it is something that you have to contend with. And then you have things like changing. I don't know why someone's yelling outside. Sorry if you heard that, but someone was yelling outside. I live in the centre of Leeds, just don't ask questions. What was I saying? Okay, so you have things like updating your details everywhere. So going to the bank, you actually have to go to the bank and then queue and then provide the paperwork and then sign paperwork. And again, one of my housemates came with me, which I really appreciate that she did that. Updating student finance. Again, that's one of the things I haven't yet done, is update the name on my student finance. I need to do that, I really do. But they want a letter posted to them, and again, I need to handwrite an envelope and find the post office and all this other stuff and print a document. I don't own a printer, so I'm gonna have to go into uni. I can't use the printers at uni because they're not accessible. So again, it's waiting until I can find someone and ask them to assist me. And I'm really, really lucky that people would do that. But it's frustrating that I'm in a position where I have to ask. And again, I'm only able to do it because of the support network I have. But it is something that's hugely inconvenient. Some things I've been able to do online, which is good, was able to update the name on my phone contract online, for example. Actually, the DWP, known for inaccessibility, was fine, because you can update your details at HMRC online. That should notify DWP for PIP. You can update things like universal credit and stuff like that. If you get that, you can do all that online. So certain things weren't too bad at all. Sorry if you can see me moving and I can tell that I've paused the recording sometimes. It's because I was needing to cough, and nobody needs that on video. So it's been really hit and miss, and it's been a pain. There's so much paperwork to keep track of, and inherently inaccessible forms and documents that I've got to deal with. So that is really frustrating. And again, that's not necessarily unique to being trans. Blind people are constantly faced with documents and forms we can't access. But obviously if you're trans, there's an extra layer of safety to asking for help. There's an extra layer to kind of, it's all coming at once, and you know, there's just all this discomfort, and it's an arduous task. Something that should have taken me maybe a few weeks has taken me months. Part of that is because I have ADHD, so doing anything is, it's a challenge. And it is hard because you just cannot have the wrong name on your documents. You can't. That's not legal. So I've really pushed for the important stuff. I've done first, you know, things like contacting the DWP about PIP, because it's really important that I get that done and that I comply with rules. So I'd have made an effort to do it, but it's not easy. So those are, I think, some of the big ways that these things kind of interact and are complicated. And I mean, I'm happy to answer questions about this. I say this at the end of every video, but if you do have questions, feel free to ask. I may not answer every question. You know, there are things that I don't know the answers to, that I'm still changing my opinions on. You know, I wrote a blog post not long after I came out about etiquette around my transition. And I did say at the beginning of that, I may not feel the same in 6 months' time. And that is true. How I feel about my transition changes, what I'm willing to tolerate changes, what I feel comfortable talking about changes, and that's okay. It's okay as people for our boundaries to change and to either become more open or more closed about certain issues. And I do think very carefully about what I make videos about. There are things that I will not touch on this channel. Relationships with my family, for example, is not going on here. And it's not going on here for several reasons. And I hope that by explaining these reasons, you'll understand kind of what questions I'm open to and what I'm not. Though if you're not sure, ask, and I'll either answer or politely say sorry, but no. The reasons I won't discuss my family are because, firstly, it's not just my story when I'm talking about them, it's them. And in order to tell you their reactions, I would have to reveal information about them. And I think that's something I would have done at first because I was really pissed off by some of their reactions, let's just say, and really grateful by some of their reactions. But I have distance from that now, and I just think, you know what, it doesn't matter. It's between me and them, and it will stay that way. Secondly, because I think our interactions with people change and they can evolve, and it's very easy to record something, a snapshot of your life, and for people to view that as the ongoing situation, and it's not always the case. So I just now stay clear of that. Beyond reactions which are just fun and kind of less high maintenance and less emotional. And also because I think I deserve a private life. So I am very, very open about my life, and I've shared a lot with people, not because I necessarily want to. Of course I want to. I've chosen to do it, but I've chosen to do it because I think that by being open, I can hopefully make things better in terms of blindness. You know, if I'm open about myself as a blind person, perhaps it will take away some of the fear some people have around blindness. If I'm open about myself as a trans person, again, perhaps it will take away some of the fear. Perhaps it will help people understand, people who go, you know, I don't understand why people are trans, but I am willing to give you dignity and respect, and I think that's so important. So I've chosen to share aspects of my life. That doesn't mean I want to share every aspect of my life, and so that's why I stay clear of kind of family stuff. I will tell you one funny family thing though, which I do share because I asked him and he's pretty relaxed about it. And you know, it's not really about him. So I have an 11-year-old nephew, and he's great. He's really funny, and he's been very accepting of my transition, and he hilariously gets things wrong, but it's just really funny. So a couple of stories about him. So I was staying at my sister's house. So my mum was very ill last year, and she had terminal cancer and she died in October. And I say that because it will probably end up coming up at some point, so I figured it's best to just tell people. And again, people know anyway, I've been very open about it. So I was staying at my sister's house, and I went to the bathroom, and when I came out of the bathroom, my nephew had said to my sister, "But if he's a boy, why doesn't he stand up when he goes for a wee?" And it really, really made me laugh. It really made me laugh. And I was like, well, I still have the same anatomy as I did, and standing up is not the most practical thing right now. And I was kind of like, I don't know what to say. I was like, well, I don't have. And he went, a penis. And I was like, yeah, okay. You feel less embarrassed about saying this than I do. Cool. I'm just ridiculous. I'm glad you're so comfortable. Like, it's very good. So that was really funny. And then the other one was, sometimes he messes up my pronouns, because obviously he's grown up with me being she, and he's 11, and sometimes this is hard to remember, right? But he's really funny, so he'll be complaining to my sister about me, and he'll be like, that person who is very lazy. So instead of using a pronoun, that's what he just referred to me as, that person who is very lazy. He would literally just say that. He'd be like, I am really annoyed with that person who is very lazy. And it's like, thank you. I'm not lazy, just to clear the record. I play loads of sports. So, I mean, I am kind of like, I do avoid doing things I probably should do. But yeah, it was really funny. So those two things I will share, because they're kind of innocent and don't reveal too much information beyond my nephew is hilarious. So I did not mean to talk this much. Hopefully this video has been kind of informative in some way. I'm impressed. My voice hasn't completely been ruined by it. I think I'm trying not to be too expressive with my voice, because the more expressive I am, the more it breaks. So I wonder if this is why men tend to, I don't want to say not be as expressive with their voices. That's not fair. Some men are, but men tend to pitch down, whereas women tend to pitch up in general. And I wonder if that's why, because we just live in fear of our voices breaking. Is it that men start to go through puberty and suddenly their voices start breaking all over the place and they just develop trauma? I am joking, but yeah, it's a thing. I'm definitely nervous. So, okay. I will stop getting distracted. So hopefully this has been helpful, and again, if you do have questions, then feel free to drop me a comment, and I will do my best to answer if I can, and I'll be back at some point. And again, if there's any kind of topics rather than a question that you want me to talk about, then I would like to do that. I chose this one because I know it was something people were curious about and people had kind of asked me. So yeah, just let me know.